Welcome to the Elissa Goodman Show, and every week I have the honor of interviewing a game changer in the wellness arena. And today I have Adrienne Nolan-Smith. She has a company called WellBe, and her company is teaching all of us how the knowledge that we need to know behind the scenes about how to get healthy and what questions to ask the healthcare community. So to merge the two, so we're talking the same language and basically really upping the ante for ourselves to get what we need from the healthcare system, because it is so confusing and just nobody's talking to each other and nobody knows what tests to do and like what questions to ask, right? So I am so glad to have you.
Thank you so much for having me, Elissa. It's wonderful to be here in both Los Angeles and sitting here with you on your show.
And out of New York City.
And out of the freezing cold. Exactly, which I have to head back to tomorrow. But no, everything that you said is very accurate. I had some personal healthcare experiences, both as a patient and as a caretaker for my mom when she was sick before her death. And
do you want to talk about those? I know your Lyme at 11 was fascinating.
Yes, so that really began my journey in wellness and integrative health. Back then we didn't even call it wellness. We also didn't talk about, gluten. We just called it wheat.
Right. True.
But it was the best worst thing that happened to me and my family because the antibiotics didn't work because my brother and I were both sick with Lyme. And we did not catch it
at the same time.
At the same time.
Okay.
His symptoms were much worse than mine, and it took diagnosing him for my mom to turn around and think, why is she so exhausted and in pain? And then they got me tested and figured out that was it as well. And so once we realized that the conventional approach at that time, and unfortunately still today, is mostly just antibiotics, wasn't going to work. We were sort of given a good luck, be on your way.
Mm-hmm.
And she was a ferocious researcher. And so she just, I don't,
thank God
maybe
for her.
We had Netscape. I don't know, really no
true.
Google. I don't know where she was going to the library. I'm not sure. But she managed to parade us around to all of these, at the time I thought they couldn't have been weirder, these woo-woo practitioners and whatever. And, the nice, doctor's offices with the academic, degrees on the wall and the white coats. And I thought that was who we should trust. In fact, it was the really more eccentric looking people that were the ones that really healed us. And so just 2 years after I was first diagnosed, I was, my Lyme was inactive, and it took my brother a little bit more time, maybe another 3 or 4 years, but I was okay. And I never had to,
say some of the modalities that did help? Was there one in particular?
There were some really weird ones.
Yeah, really? Okay.
I could just go on for a while. I won't. But we tried something called Bovine Colostrum therapy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's still an orphan drug phase. It was technically illegal. There's a whole long background to this, but I spent basically 3 weeks in a Motel 6 room in Mankato, Minnesota, going to an illegal dairy farmer who was doing this
Adrienne.
with us.
Wow.
And he was being watched by the FDA, and it was this whole thing. And my mom is, taking my blood in a car, and it's spurting on the windows, and the flies are eating it, and it was out of a movie.
Totally.
I know, but it was towards the end, and that was really when my treatment, my health turned around. So I think it was quite effective.
Okay.
But of course, we also did a lot of Chinese herbs and supplements. I drank these disgusting Chinese herbal teas. And no one wanted to play at our house because the whole house smelled like Chinese herbs, and couldn't eat wheat and sugar and dairy and all these things. I also did another 3-week session on hyperbaric oxygen therapy at a center in Amish country, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Also stuck in, I think, a Motel 6 with my dad, with my mom and my brother. When I was
your brother and you were both doing these treatments together.
Everything together. Yeah. So it was the three of us.
Right.
Which I guess was nice, but when you're 12, you want to go have your first kiss and hang with your friends, not hang out with your little brother and your mom.
Right, in a motel
with nothing to do, and we didn't even have smartphones to distract us. We were just
true.
Playing cards. So it was a lot. But
did Lyme ever come back after you cured it?
The more I learn about Lyme, it didn't come back for me in the way that. But I think that there are things that happen having had Lyme. you know, like for example, I now have some thyroid issues, and you know, it's easier for viruses to flare up in different ways if you ever are exposed to them, just because your body has been compromised by having Lyme. But overall, I mean, I had pretty good health from, you know, age like 13 to 20. And 13 to 18 when I went away to college. Like nothing really happened. And then I started eating in the cafeteria. I went to Johns Hopkins down in Baltimore. Like every kid, I just thought, you know,
you're okay.
Yeah,
you're fine.
Why can't I eat in the dining hall? And so, well, it turns out food is really important, as you know. And about 6 months into college, I lost my period. And I'd never had an irregular period. I'd, you know, gotten it when I was 12, and it was fairly normal. So this was surprising to me. But about 6 months into that, I, you know, started to parade around to all these doctors, which is, you know, why I care so much about being an empowered patient and really feeling like you are the client. And if you are not getting what you need out of the conventional system or practitioners or whatever, you need to explain what you need and also move along to other people.
If they're not going to give it to you.
Exactly. Who you really feel like are going to get to the root cause and, you know, roll up their sleeves and do the hard work with you of getting better, instead of just doing the easy, you know, write a script and out the door. So I ended up so I saw a ton of endocrinologists and gynecologists, and all of them just tried to throw the birth control pill at me. And I knew enough from this sort of integrative health world that I'd, you know, been in with my mom for a couple of years, that wasn't a solution. It was a Band-Aid, right? So I said, what's wrong? I don't want to cover it up. I want to know, you know, what's going on and fix it. So I ended up working with a naturopath in New York for about 6 months, and she said, looked at my blood work so differently. It's very similar to how you were, you know, describing like functional medicine blood work today, and connected all these interesting dots between, you know, parasite exposure when I was studying abroad in China, and like probably emotional stuff too, but also mostly the diet I'd been having when I was home, and then this abrupt change in diet, eating GMOs and sugar and way too much alcohol, I would assume, being in college, and you know,
not
fried food and not enough sleep. Exactly. And she said, follow this protocol with, you know, Chinese herbs, supplements, changing your diet, and acupuncture. I didn't even do that much acupuncture, though that was a small part of it, and it'll come back. So 6 months, she said, 6 months and a day later, it did come back.
Wow.
And it was, you know, it's been, you know, normal ever since. And this was like my strike too of like, what the heck is going on in the conventional system that everybody I'm supposed to trust was totally unhelpful, maybe even harmful had I been taking that for years. And there's obviously
gone on the birth control, or gone on the birth control pill. Yes.
There's obviously side effects with synthetic hormones. So, you know, whatever. And obviously this thing would have gotten worse, whatever was going on. So that was a big moment. And then the biggest moment of why I'm doing what I'm doing now came just about a few months after I got my period back. So when
How old were you then?
I was about 21.
Okay.
And my mom, or I just turned 21. It was the summer I was turning 21. And my mom had a manic episode in the middle of the night. And the precursor to all of that, my parents got divorced when I was 18.
Okay.
And my mom's mental health had started to deteriorate kind of before that. And I think after that as well. But she had been living in Florida because, you know, with her sister, whatever. So I wasn't able to see it being at college as closely as I would have.
What was really happening to her.
Had we been like living in the same place. And to the point where she was completely paranoid and delusional that we were like trying to kill her, my brothers and I. And we ended up having to chase her through the New York City subway system in like, I think 10, 11 o'clock at night to Queens. She rode she was switching trains. She was off to the races and running away from us to the point where we had to put her in like a human straitjacket. My brother did, and hold her, and we put her in the back of a cop car and sent her to God knows where, like some kind of a mental facility.
Oh my God.
And it started this nightmare of like 5 years of in and out of these psychiatric institutions. They just drugged the heck out of her with antipsychotics, and those have tons of side effects. And each one of those side effects required then, of course, another drug with side effects. And it was really a kind of a mess. And knowing what I knew, but also being kind of feeling a bit helpless and not empowered because I was in college and I feel like I didn't know, it was a very switched role. This was
now you're the
my
caregiver.
mom. I'm the caregiver and I feel too young to be a caregiver or something.
Plus you were distracted at some point. I mean, you were trying to finish school,
I was still in college and even a part of that time I was living abroad. It was just kind of a lot. And my uncle was her legal guardian, so he was helping.
Okay.
But at the same time, he had no idea. And I kept saying, what about more experimental treatments? Like my family would try anything. We're very open-minded. I'm reading about, fish oil injections and it's very important for the brain. And why are we addressing any of the emotional traumas of her past? Because her mother had been an alcoholic and very emotionally and verbally abusive. And she had very low self-worth. And this was evident my whole life. And she had things like active Epstein-Barr and chronic fatigue and lots of gut problems. And this was before the microbiome project. So I didn't know the gut-brain connection was so powerful, but I had an inkling that there was a lot of underlying
stuff going on that wasn't being addressed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was difficult to even get her psychiatrist prescribing all this stuff to chat with her therapist. And then we found out she barely even went to the therapist, but nobody really cared as long as she was on her meds.
Yeah, taking her
whatever.
meds.
So
when she was on her meds, was she okay? Or sometimes yes, sometimes no?
When she was on her meds, she was a total zombie.
Zombie. Okay.
So she was drooling, shaking.
Whoa, that was...
You can't sleep. And she was, a really high functioning person. She'd been, in the first class of women at Columbia Business School.
Really?
She was a management consultant. And she turned stay-at-home mom, but, just highly intelligent. And to see when she had this manic episode, she was 56, and it was just such a bizarre situation to see her to be like a feeble, almost looking and acting like a 90-year-old because she couldn't, an unwell 90-year-old at that. So,
and definitely not the woman you knew.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and even. I just she felt so awful on the meds that all she wanted to do was come off of them. But she also realized that coming off of them would probably mean having another episode without working on something to a different solution, anything else to fix what was going on. So long story short, after 5 years she took her life, and it was 2 weeks before Christmas. And I was at the time applying to business school, and I really didn't know why. And I just thought, I was working at IBM, and I thought, this is not my calling, and I don't know why, but I want to do something that I think is going to actually also change the world. I'm a really delusional millennial that thinks that that's possible. And
I don't think it's delusion.
Just, you want to feel that way. That you're contributing to something more than just your bank account when you get up every day.
Right.
And I thought maybe I could figure that out when I was there. And I thought when she died, I don't even think I can finish these applications. And I had a couple of friends say, yes, you can. You've done a lot of work. Let's
keep going.
Keep going. We'll help you with your drafts. We'll get them out the door. You've got all your recommendations. Let's go. And I got a few out the door. And I said, if I do get in, I will dedicate the rest of my life using this as a career transition to trying to fix the healthcare system so that this is not the norm. This is not the standard of care in America, because nobody should go into any kind of a mental health visit, whether it's a psychiatrist or facility, without them opening the hood and understanding everything that's going on in their gut, resolving all these emotional traumas, really digging into their diet, their micronutrient deficiencies, environmental toxin exposure. There was even a period after college when my mom ended up working with this family who had all these funny antiques and stuff and stripping furniture. And she loved it.
Oh, she was stripping furniture with them, with all those chemicals.
In a garage doing this with them, and then re-putting them together and selling them for a couple of years even. I think it might have been two years. And I think back to that, and
that could have had some part in this.
As you know, this it's all like a bucket, right? And all the toxins is the manic episodes happen when it spills over,
Right.
or the cancer happens when it spills over,
Right.
whatever it might be. But I think that was probably not looked into. I'm sure nobody looked at her heavy metal exposure or her mercury levels or any of these things that now we know are so impactful to the brain.
I know.
And furthermore, every facility she was in, I couldn't believe what they were feeding her. And
the crappy food.
oh yeah, and I mean, you know so much about detoxing, but when you're on these medications, it's like being drunk all day for your organs, right? Because how much your liver has to detox. And yet there was nothing to support her liver within the protocol of what they did there. And I just think, of course, at some point she's going to feel so awful.
Right.
She's going to say,
backlogged and
no, I can't do this anymore. And she really didn't see a way out.
Yeah.
And she's right.
Yeah.
There wasn't much of a way out for her in the way that, you know, the system is set up. And so that was a huge,
oh my God,
huge deal.
I know what that feels like. I mean, to have someone really close to you. You lost. Yeah, the loss. It's just, but then it does really spearhead you and, like, you know, to get to that, to really teach people what you are teaching them and going to that next level.
There's a rock bottom that occurs for a lot of us before we sort of decide to change things or realize what's really that wrong about a system or a company or a, you know, whatever it might be. And so luckily I did get into business school, and I moved to Chicago about 6 months after she died, and to go to Northwestern, so Kellogg's business school. And while I was there, I was trying to talk to everybody and anybody who would talk to me about integrative medicine and wellness. And there wasn't even Instagram yet, you know? So people are looking at me like, what? You know, in Chicago, it's not LA. Like there
wasn't that wellness community.
Exactly.
It was,
And there were some maybe practitioners here and there, but there weren't people like us who just had been through things and wanted to use education and awareness to help people to understand that there are other ways of doing things. Yeah. These are either have a patient or go into a different field.
Yeah.
And so I was sort of...
There were no platforms at the time. Like,
exactly. I think maybe...
that you could learn from.
Mind Body Green was just starting. So I was reading that.
Yeah.
And Well and Good a little bit too. But I still felt like there wasn't a way to connect with people. And really it was seeing Instagram, you know, starting up, you know, when we finally had captions and things like that. And who knows when that was, 2014, 2015.
Yeah, right.
That I saw people talking about these things like functional medicine and root cause medicine. And I was so happy that I finally found like my people.
Yeah, exactly.
And at the time I ended up going into to work in the healthcare system after business school for 3 years. So I worked with hospitals.
Right.
For 3 years.
And that was disgruntling?
Terrible, yeah. Well, you know, I worked, ironically, on chronic disease management programs with hospitals. So I got to see exactly, you know, I thought I knew what was wrong. Yeah. But I got to see what they were really doing to try to, you know, keep people out of the hospital and manage disease. Nobody ever tries to reverse it, but manage disease. And then I really could see, okay, now I know exactly what's wrong and how they're doing it. Yeah. And it was quite depressing going into hospitals where often the the administrators were often just as sick in their behaviors and their appearance and everything else as a lot of the people in the hospitals. And they had tons of health issues and, you know, donuts and sodas and synthetically flavored coffees. And it was a very unhealthy environment. And I was, you know, many health systems I work with had McDonald's and, you know, Tim Hortons and this and that in the lobby.
Yeah, I was going to say in the basement, or not the basement, but Starbucks, like all
Dunkin'
that stuff.
Donuts, this and that. And I'm like, this is like putting a liquor store in front of a rehab facility. Like, why would you do that? You know,
I still can't understand all of that. I'm just so baffled.
And it's still going on
especially with doctors. And, you know, we know more and more as we're growing and learning, but I can't grasp that concept.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people who are in wellness, but really haven't spent that much time in hospitals. Like they say like, oh, wellness is saturated. Like, you know, everyone's doing it, this and that. But really most people are dealing with the more, you know, Tim Hortons, Dunkin' Donuts in a hospital situation.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's, we have a long way to go.
is not into the health and wellness.
Right.
There's such a small segment of us.
Right. And it feels, because we all then love to
gravitate toward each other
that it feels like everyone you know is, but that's really not the case. So I ended up leaving that job in healthcare technology and leaving my hospital work to found WellBe. So
when was WellBe founded?
I technically left the healthcare industry in March 2017 and launched WellBe in July 2017.
Okay.
So it's actually Get WellBe is all of our URL and channels and stuff. But WellBe basically came from me thinking about how I could have helped myself in a bunch of different situations, and where I saw a need within wellness media and just a lot of the conversations that were happening. And that was a complete disconnect between the world of kind of leggings and juice and yoga over here, and then a lot of
supplements.
You and I have going through these healthcare situations where you're forced into the conventional system. It feels like night and day.
Yep.
And sometimes you can't escape going through this one because
you sort of need it as a bridge.
Right. And so nobody's really trying to connect the dots and, show that there are brilliant people doing things in this halfway point who can encourage the conventional system to really adopt some of these practices that are grounded in science and, helping have tremendous health outcomes to become the norm.
Right.
Instead of just leaving them so separate, as this kind of almost like two tribes. And I don't think it's realistic. We can't help all the people that have the most health problems, to be honest, right? If we leave them so separate. And so I do research wrap-ups and highlight, integrative experts like yourself and other functional MDs and things like that, and tell stories of health recovery through integrative medicine too, because I find that when you see it with real people who were not hippies, they were lawyers.
These are like you and me,
they were just
professionals.
They were just trying to live their life, and they, got lupus at 25, or they got Hashimoto's or a toxic drug reaction or something, and so they were forced into this path, and but then they healed, and so and they're not crazy, and they're not trying to be alternative. They're just trying to be healthy,
live a healthy life,
they're just
and a vibrant life,
whatever it takes. I want to just actually
get to the other side.
Get to the other side, exactly. And so those are a lot of the stories that we share. And
your videos are really, really incredible. The interviews, what I love most about that is that's what I gravitate towards, are the stories of the real people. I've always loved that in the books or on the videos, just how did they get through their journey, because we're all a little different in how we get through our journeys, and you learn something from each individual.
Absolutely. I think it really helps people too who are at that stage where they maybe their parent just got a mental, or their brother just got a mental health, or husband, diagnosis of some kind. And they're right at that period where they're like, how am I going to navigate this? But maybe they just happened to watch your show and hear that maybe I should ask about heavy metal, situation, or maybe I should, I've never thought about the fact that she's had IBS for 10 years being connected to some of these mental issues with anxiety or whatever else, that could be the one thing that made them start researching. And once people start researching, they get much more empowered because they can talk the talk a little bit, and they walk into a doctor's office and they kind of sound like
they know what they're talking about
more seriously. I mean, it makes a huge difference when you have paperwork, you have things you've looked into, you have
list of questions,
citations, list of questions, exactly. And
more people need that.
It's when, just the same way as a lot of walking into a bank for a loan. If you sound like you might know what you're talking about, they're gonna take you a lot more seriously.
And that is brilliant. I talk to a lot of people about how to heal and holistically, and what foods to eat or sleep or stress or all that stuff. But to really be your own advocate, to go in and fight for your health and your mental well-being is just something that I think I don't talk enough about to my clients. And, the right tests to ask for, and to that doctor doesn't have all the answers.
Right.
You
like
know?
they're
So
just not serving you. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of good doctors out there.
Right.
So you don't have to go and feel terrible because this interaction each time belittles you
Yeah,
or
that's-
thinks you have to, forces you to believe that you have to that drugs are the only solution or
Yeah.
surgery is the only solution. Like get out there and talk to a couple of other types of people. And not only might you just connect better with somebody who's really listening
Absolutely.
to you and
Yeah.
hearing that you're going through a really hard time
Right.
and being more empathetic, but also willing to say, you're interested in fully healing and not, band-aiding symptoms. Let's do it. I'm
Right.
going to,
We're gonna do it together.
We're going to do it together.
Yeah.
I'm going to research. You're going to research. You're going to send me things. You want me to talk to another doctor you have? No problem.
Right.
Like that's how it should be. And so few people feel empowered to ask for that.
Right. Well, it's going to be changing because of you, my dear.
I have a lot
I can
of work
see
to
it
do
happening.
then.
No, well, you're so passionate about it. And I know that I'm on board with you in every way with this. I mean, everybody I see, I'm like, go see a functional doctor or somebody who really is interested in you personally and getting to the root. I think it's just, there is no better way and no other way to get to that other side. So I love what you're doing. I'm
Thank you so much.
proud of you and happy to have you on my show. And at the end of the show, I always ask all my guests if they had to sum up their mission in one word, what would yours be?
In one word.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I should have warned you, huh?
Yeah, really. It's two. Is that
Okay,
okay?
go. No.
I would say
some people use a lot more than that.
root cause. I know it's a little bit overused at this point, but
I don't think so.
I think
No.
it sums up. I mean, I'm really interested in helping people to prevent chronic health issues because I know it's possible, and
Yeah.
also to reverse them naturally because I know that's possible
Yeah.
too, in almost every situation, or at least give it your best shot to do that. And so
Don't
when
ever
you
give up.
Right. And when you think about what both of those really come down to, it's understanding what is causing, whatever you might be feeling now or might have later. And if you can work on those things, like they'll never manifest in a disease state, and
Yeah.
you might be able to completely remove them. And how exciting and cool
No.
is that, I think. So
And have a completely different life
Yeah.
than you think you're predisposed to.
and just also, like you said, it's all at the end about being fulfilled and
Yeah.
being happy.
Yeah.
And when I look into the future, I want to be 90 doing yoga, hiking,
Right.
being
Right,
there
living
for
your
people.
best self. Yeah.
Living my best life. Not taking a handful of drugs and,
Yeah.
limping and feeling, like I can't,
Not-
I'm not really living, I'm
Yeah,
existing.
existing.
And I
know.
think that all starts with what we do every day.
Yeah, no. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.